Hello there. Welcome to video 144 from Sumit Academy. I do hope that you have subscribed to my channel. Do subscribe now so that you do not miss out on my previous or future videos. And do remember to like and share this video too. And if you want to drop in a line, I shall always be available at sumitacademy20@gmail.com. To make your task a little easier, here is a complete list of all the 144 videos available on my YouTube channel. The list is divided into the playlists under which they are available. Do have a look. So far, in my earlier videos, we have studied the concept of disaster and disaster management. We have had a look at what causes earthquakes and floods, their mitigation strategies, and governmental policies regarding all these. We now come to the perennial problem of this nation, a problem so slow moving, so predictable, yet so dangerous in its effects, a problem which is even now present in a large portion of our country, and that is the problem of droughts. This is also a water and climate related disaster. Being a very big subject, we shall study about drought in three separate videos. In my first video on drought, I had explained the concept of drought, its types, the drought situation in India, and the 9 major reasons for the occurrence of droughts in India. I had also explained the difference between El Nino and La Nina and their impact on the Indian monsoon. In my second video on drought, I had also discussed the consequences and economic impact of drought and the ways to cope with it, including the need of a drought preparedness and mitigation strategy. This second video also discussed the traditional ways of water conservation in India. In this, the third video on drought, I shall discuss in detail about the National Disaster Management Guidelines on drought. Now, let's see what the government plans are for combating the perennial problem of drought. The government issued the National Disaster Management Guidelines for Management of Drought in September 2010, and this consists of 8 chapters. Chapter 1 is about status and context. It examines the concept of drought, which varies from place to place depending upon normal climatic conditions, available water resources, agricultural practices, and the various socio-economic attributes of a region. The extent and intensity of drought impact is determined by prevailing economic conditions, the structure of the agricultural sector, management of water resources, cereal reserves, internal and external conflicts, etc. Generally, the secondary impact is on regional inequality, employment, trade deficits, debt, and inflation. The micro level impact at village and household levels are equally important. Drought can result in household food insecurity, water related health risks, and loss of livelihood in the agricultural as well as other sectors of the economy. Keeping these in mind, the guidelines have laid down certain action points for this chapter. It mandates that separate drought monitoring cells, DMCs, will be created at the state level with adequate staff under the control of the state disaster management authorities. It also states that state DMCs will undertake on a priority basis the preparation of vulnerability maps for their respective states. The action points mandate establishing a control room for drought management and strengthening the drought monitoring cell in the Department of Agriculture and Cooperation with all the required technical facilities and personnel so as to have the capability of analyzing and examining the reference and research information from various sources. It says that specific guidelines for use of information and communication technology ICT and role of the National Informatics Center NIC for online interaction and availability of real-time drought-related information will be developed. Chapter 2 deals with the institutional framework and financial arrangements. This chapter highlights some of the administrative and financial issues that need to be addressed in a holistic manner, besides analyzing the present status of drought. Since 2005, the Government of India has brought about a paradigm shift in its approach to disaster management. The new approach proceeds from the conviction that development cannot be sustainable unless disaster mitigation is built into the process. Thus, the drought early warning surveillance and early response system prepared by the Department of Agriculture and Cooperation in 2004 involves at least 11 ministries and departments looking at different aspects of drought management. Effective and timely coordination among these agencies is an important factor requiring attention. The data required for drought assessment and drought declaration are available but in a scattered manner with different organizations in local formats, making quick risk analysis and decision making difficult. The chapter also discusses the long term and short term programs which have evolved at the national level, including the Drought Prone Areas Program, the Desert Development Program, the Accelerated Rural Water Supply Program, National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, and the Pradhan Mantri Gramoday Yojana, etc. Action points on Chapter 2 recognizes that the watershed development approach is an important facet of drought management initiative taken up through the programs of the Government of India. Chapter 3 deals with the assessment and early warning. This chapter enumerates the measures to improve assessment and early warning for drought. With the launch of the Indian remote sensing satellite in 1988 and the follow-on IRS series subsequently, the thrust has also been on remote sensing application to key sectors of development, such as land and water resources management, coastal and marine resources, forest management, flood and drought disaster management, etc. The satellite application program has evolved to provide vital inputs to decision making at central and state level. The satellite derived vegetation index and wetness index information constitute the main indicators for crop condition monitoring. Early forecasting helps in the choice of crop varieties to be sown, as well as planning the extent of area sown and the allocation of water resources. Action points on Chapter 3 state that efforts will be made to integrate the ground-based information with the space-based information for comprehensive reporting. Automatic weather stations being set up by different agencies, including the India Meteorological Department, the IMD, will also include moisture sensors for obtaining information about the soil moisture levels under natural environment. Remote sensing applications will corroborate on a weekly basis their findings on the crop health. IMD will have a dedicated web page on drought monitoring and forecast in its web portal, which will be coordinated by the Drought Research Unit at Pune. It goes on to say that assessment of damage expected will include agricultural production, depletion of water resources, livestock population, land degradation, and deforestation, as well as human health. The action plan says that the unit of deceleration of drought should be standardized and alternative methods of quicker assessment of crop yield need to be evolved so as to mitigate the impact of drought in time. It calls for the revamping of the drought management information system, which should be institutionalized and made operational with the support of state drought monitoring cells. The action plan tasks the drought monitoring cells to facilitate the integration of data and expertise from multiple institutions such as the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, the ICAR, National Remote Sensing Center, the IMD, agricultural universities, state departments of irrigation, groundwater, revenue, agriculture, etc., to evolve a robust method for drought intensity assessment on the lines of the US Drought Monitor. The plan says that once the indicators cross the defined threshold level, now this level is to be decided by the state. The State Disaster Management Authority Secretariat will help in declaring drought at sub-district levels. Chapter 4 of the guidelines is on prevention, preparedness, and mitigation. Considering the increase in frequency of droughts in different parts of the country, it is necessary that there is a shift in public policy from drought relief to drought preparedness and mitigation measures. Most of these measures are related to integrated soil, water, and forest management and form part of soil conservation, watershed development, and forestry programs. The chapter talks about drought proofing measures taken before the crop is planted and drought management measures taken during the crop growing period, including in situ, that is, in place conservation, reduction in plant population, supplemental irrigation, etc. It says that nutritional aspects of food security will be addressed by the government through schemes like the Integrated Child Development Services, the ICDS, and the Midday Meal Scheme. Since school dropout rate is high in drought affected areas, ICDS and Midday Meal Scheme will be expanded to cover children out of school as well. In the event of drought, the Public Distribution System, the PDS, will cover the non-target groups also, and distribution will be restricted to essential commodities like food grain, pulses, and oil. Action points on Chapter 4, including directions for automatic weather stations and rain gauges to be put in place at appropriate spacing to enable micro-level analysis and forecasting. State DMCs will harmonize the current ongoing efforts by various knowledge centers at the national and international levels. It directs that the services of Village Resources Center, being established by the Indian Space Research Organization ISRO, the ICAR, state agricultural universities, and other organizations, will be effectively used towards management of droughts. Large-scale research will be conducted through universities to evolve drought-resistant crop varieties. The action plan says that mitigation measures to be taken will include conduct of pilot studies in all categories of drought-prone areas for suggesting long-term mitigation measures. Convergence of lessons learned from studies carried out by the Central Research Institute for Dryland Agriculture, the CRIDA. International Crop Research for Semi-Arid Tropics, IMD. The National Remote Sensing Center, NRSC. the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, ICAR, and other institutes. Cloud seeding as a possible measure of mitigation will be considered along with measures for reducing the impact of climate change on drought. Among other measures, the action plan advocates that the State Department of Agriculture and agricultural universities will promote cultivation of crops under crop diversification through sprinklers and drip irrigation systems and promote protective irrigation through micro irrigation systems through incentives. Considering the adverse impact on the farmers, the action plan mandates that credit will be provided promptly in drought affected areas and marketing and price support extended to them. Price fluctuations will be stabilized by strengthening links of farm products with agro-based industries. The scope of the National Agricultural Insurance Scheme will be widened to include pre-sowing and post-harvest losses. Price-linked insurance products will be promoted to avoid distress sale of farm produce. Insurance products will be developed for different agroclimatic zones, providing coverage against drought. Central state governments will promote agricultural insurance programs and ensure that farmers are informed about the availability of insurance products. Very important. And will educate them about the need for managing their yield and income risks through insurance coverage. Weather insurance will be promoted for crops not having database on productivity. Government will set up automated weather stations where necessary. It also talks of afforestation with subabul, simarub, cosirina and eucalyptus, and biodiesel plantations like jatropha and pongomia, which should be encouraged. Chapter 5 is about capacity development, human resource development, training, education, and capacity building are essential components of the strategy for effective drought mitigation and management. The objective is to put in place a systematic, functional mechanism with trained human resources. Capacities need to be enhanced at all levels, which calls for requisite financial, technical, and infrastructural support. A national training and capacity building program for drought management will be formulated and implemented, which would include strengthening the administrative training institutes, preparation of district drought management plans, and documentation. So far, systematic documentation has not been given due importance in drought management. Shortage of well-trained and experienced staff is one reason for this. Documentation will capture the process of learning from case studies, which will help in a wider understanding of the issues. State intervention in drought management by and large has had a significant positive impact. But the efficacy of such interventions can substantially increase through the greater involvement of the stakeholders. The action points on Chapter 5 includes directions for a realistic national training and capacity building program for drought management to be formulated and implemented. A program of resource enhancement encompassing all institutions, organizations, and individuals will also be developed. Agricultural universities and national research centers of ICAR will be encouraged to undertake contractual research for industry and farmers as a means of revenue generation and providing solutions to immediate problems. The administrative training institutes and other institutions will take up pilot projects in a participatory mode with the agricultural universities and organizations to undertake research in various aspects of drought management. And why? To establish synergy between various aspects of drought, including policy, socio-economic, legal, water, soil, environmental, and ecology related issues. Efforts will be made to fill the gap between the requirement and availability of qualified and experienced trainers conversant with natural hazards, especially with drought mitigation and management techniques. Training need assessment will, in future, take cognizance of the need to develop competent, resourceful, and responsible personnel and strengthen their capacity to work in disaster situations through the delivery of continuous competence-based training. Necessary budget will be provided by each department. All the training programs will be evaluated to assess their effectiveness. The action plan mandates that the National Institute of Disaster Management, the administrative training institutes, and the NDMA will take up the responsibility of training all government personnel from all central ministries and departments and state governments on different aspects of drought management. These organizations will evolve an action plan jointly in collaboration with the state ATIs and other institutions to offer a comprehensive curriculum on drought management in the form of training modules for the various target groups. The action plan says that Panchayati Raj institutions, that is the PRIs, and urban local bodies, the ULBs, will ensure capacity building of their officers and employees in disaster management to carry out relief, rehabilitation, and reconstruction activities in the affected areas and will prepare disaster management plans in consonance with the guidelines of the NDMA, SDMAs, and the District Disaster Management Authorities, the DDMAs. The administrative training institutes, the non-governmental organizations, Panchayati Raj institutions, and urban local bodies will be encouraged to take up awareness programs on drought management, consisting of sensitizing the farmers, communities, and other stakeholders at household level, community level, in rural and urban areas, and organizational and institutional level on a large scale. These programs will be sustained through constant updating of knowledge. The action plan says that UGC will encourage universities for setting up centers for disaster management to foster research in disaster management. Education boards of all states will also develop similar content in their curricula. Invariably, a chapter on drought mitigation will be included in the curricula under environment science in all classes from 8th standard onwards. Development of high quality educational material, textbooks, field training, and a high standard of teaching at all levels will be given due emphasis. Education and training programs will be designed with greater focus on the development of the capacity and skills of trainers and teachers. We now go on to chapter 6, which deals with relief and response. Lack of integrated planning is considered a major constraint in achieving the objectives of drought management. Most activities are planned and executed on a sectoral basis. For example, animal husbandry, agriculture, soil, and water conservation. All independent of each other, and thus they lack synergy. There are several innovative, proactive, flexible, institutionally enabled, and decentralized schemes that can help quick and efficient drought management. Action points on chapter 6 says that agencies in all the districts covered by these programs will be sensitized regarding their value in generating employment in drought affected areas and building assets such as tanks and wells which reduce the impact of drought. The Department of Agriculture, state drought monitoring cells, the DMCs, state governments, and SDMAs will prepare a contingency plan in case of the late onset of monsoon or dry spells during the season, with appropriate cropping pattern, arrange availability of seeds with short duration varieties on subsidy, stock quality seeds well in advance for immediate distribution, and create awareness among the farmers on management practices like intercropping, mulching, and weed control. Provision of consumption loan will also be encouraged in drought prone areas, and efforts will be made to bring agricultural labor into the net of social security. To improve access to financial services, provision of support to local microfinance institutions will be encouraged by the central and the state governments. Vaccines for various diseases and essential medicines will be procured as required. Fodder, cattle feed, and mineral mixture will be supplied to all productive animals to prevent the distress sale of cattle. Chapter 7 deals with the implementation of the guidelines and the preparations of drought management plans. This chapter discusses preparation of drought management plans at various levels. Such plans will indicate the detailed work plan and milestone with recommended time frame and suitable indicators to enable monitoring and review of actual progress made. Drought management plans for the entire season will be prepared by the respective states well in advance in the month of May, based on the long season forecast issued by the IMD in April and also the previous season's rainfall. The drought management plans will be prepared district wise. Each state will prepare a detailed drought manual giving the details of the implementation aspects of the drought management plans. Interventions relating to agriculture and allied activities would include preparation of a contingency plan in case of a late onset of monsoon or dry spells during the season, with appropriate cropping pattern, arranging availability of seeds with short duration varieties on subsidy, stocking of quality seeds well in advance for immediate distribution. Also included will be creating awareness among the farmers on management practices like intercropping, mulching, and weed control. Encouragement of afforestation with subabul, simaruba, casuarina, and eucalyptus. Promotion of biodiesel plantations like Jatropha and Pangomia. And ensuring availability of quality fodder and cattle camps. Action points on Chapter 7 states that in accordance with the various disaster-specific guidelines laid down by the NDMA, the National Executive Committee, the NEC, will prepare a national drought management plan incorporating the drought management plans prepared by the central ministries and departments and state governments for drought affected states and districts. The capacity and potential of other government organizations, knowledge institutions, and academic institutions will be harnessed and incorporated into the drought mitigation endeavor. The action plan says that the District Disaster Management Authority will ensure the convergence of the existing schemes for better management of resources and will involve non-governmental organizations, community-based organizations, Panchayat Raj institutions, and other local bodies for dissemination and implementation. The central and state ministries and departments will mainstream disaster management efforts in their developmental plans. In the annual expenditure plans, specific allocations will be made for carrying out disaster awareness programs, maintaining preparedness, and for undertaking mitigation efforts. Wherever necessary and feasible, the corporate sector should also be involved in supporting drought risk management efforts. Now, this will be as part of their corporate social responsibility, CSR. All good policies will be incomplete without a schedule of completion of action. The time frame proposed for the implementation of various activities in the guidelines are considered both important and desirable, especially in the case of those non-structural measures for which No clearances are required from central or other agencies. Precise schedules for structural measures will, however, be evolved in the drought management plans that follow at the central ministries and at the state levels, taking into account the availability of financial, technical, and managerial resources. In case of compelling circumstances warranting a change, consultation with the National Disaster Management Authority, the NDMA, will be undertaken well in advance for any adjustment, obviously on a case by case basis. Well, that's all from me in this video. Do have a look at all the 3 videos on drought on my channel to understand the subject properly. Now, this video is based on the information freely available on the internet. No originality is claimed for the same. The intention of this video is only to prepare candidates for answering examination questions on the subject and not for any financial gains. Do like and share this video and do subscribe to my channel now so that you don't miss out on my previous or future videos. Till later then, cheerio.